Etemon, probably the most polarizing and overlooked villain, not only in the Digimon Adventure series, but in Digimon in general. So let's look at the reasons why he should return, why he shouldn't return, and how he can possibly return. For me personally, Etemon is not only one of my favorite villains in the Digimon series, but also one of my favorite characters in the series just period. He's just hilarious, he oozes charisma and he's just full of life. And the Elvis rockstar gimmick that he has just makes it that much more entertaining on screen. He's not a Digimon or a MetalEtemon where he's all super serious and menacing. He's fun and he has his evil goals, but he wants to have a good time doing it. Very similar to Lothar from Power Rangers Ninja Storm, where he himself was also a comedic but a fierce villain. That's why I love Etemon so much. So with my personal bias out of the way, let's look at the reasons why he should return. Etemon made a surprise return in the original Digimon Adventure series as MetalEtemon after he got sucked into his dark network. But when he returned, he was barely shown. He had a few scuffles with Puppetmon, but that was it. He ended up being killed by SaberLeomon. I feel that was a big waste when we already had the Dark Masters as the big massive threat. We didn't need Etemon to return at that point. Etemon's character and ego is way too big for him just to be another villain in an arc where there is already enough powerful villains running riot. For Etemon to work, he needs to be the sole villain of an arc and not be villain number 5 of an arc. If he were to return in Digimon 2020, he needs to be the sole antagonist of his own arc. Out of all the villains in the original Digimon Adventure series, Etemon was the most technical. He was using technology such as the Dark Network, and he was literally moving around in his tour bus. He wasn't magical or demonic like Digimon and MetalEtemon, or even the Dark Masters. The only other character that was maybe using technology as a way of helping him defeat the Digidestin was Machinedramon. The big factor that's in Etemon's favor for him to return is the Dark Network. Etemon had the Dark Network control the entire continent of Server, which meant he could pinpoint the Digidestin's whereabouts at any time, and the Dark Network also let him control many powerful Digimon like Tyrannomon on his side. Basically, he had an entire continent's Digimon part of his army, with a team of Gazimon controlling the network and doing all the technical stuff. With the power of the Dark Network, it makes Etemon a massive threat to the Digidestin. In the original, he was laughing at the Digidestin's champion Digimon. I remember the scene where Togemon unleashed her needle spray attack, and Etemon actually caught all the needles from that attack. He was taking the piss out of all of them. So just because he's a very comedy-centric character doesn't mean he's not a formidable foe and a legitimate threat to the Digidestin and the digital world. Remember guys, the Digidestin never defeated him. He got sucked into his own dark network because Datamon corrupted it, and when he returned as MetalEtemon, it was SaberLeomon that defeated him. So technically he didn't even lose to them. With the new Digimon 2020 series heavily talking about the network world, why not introduce the Digimon that created the dark network and expand upon that power? If Etemon were to return, could his dark network transfer to the other network worlds, such as the internet world or the world that Tai and Matt were in when they were fighting Algomon? Can Etemon with his dark network potentially have that type of power? Because he did manage to take over an entire continent within the digital world. And if not for the Digidestin, who knows what could have happened? He could have had his dark network take control of the entire digital world. I feel like having the dark network control the digital world instead of the powers of darkness that MetalEtemon unleashed at the end of Season 2 is way more dangerous. With the powers of darkness, because of the crests of hope and light, the dark energy will always be repelled. Hell, even in the finale of Season 2, we saw the kids that had the fake dark spores repel the powers of darkness thanks to Davis giving them a pep talk. So you wouldn't even need the crests of hope and light. All you need is basically hope within yourself, and that will beat the darkness. But the dark network controlling the digital world will be like living in a world where there is landmines everywhere. It'll be like living in a war zone with one crazy rockstar monkey as the dictator. The dark network will get Digimon under Etemon's control, and he can attack them from anywhere because of it. It's like the human extinction attack with that Majin Buu unleashed when he killed all the humans up in Kami's lookout. A scenario of mass extinction can happen if the dark network was to take over the whole world. Now for reasons why he shouldn't return. I love Etemon, but I have seen many people complain that he's too much of a clown and he's too funny. Basically, from what I've seen, the fanbase doesn't take Etemon seriously as a villain because of the way he's portrayed. I think for most people, because the way he is portrayed, That's why they would rather not have him return. For me personally, if they give him the MetalEtemon treatment, like the way they did in his return in the first season, if they're going to do that, then I wouldn't want him to return. That would damage his reputation as a villain even more, and people don't take him seriously as he is. Now let's go over how he should return. Etemon potentially could be an endgame villain. The potential with the Dark Network is almost limitless. You can actually go crazy with it. I think one thing they can do is possibly have the Dark Network hack into the network world we saw in the first 3 episodes of the 2020 series. Have Etemon's Dark Network fully control that world. And as we saw from the first 3 episodes, whatever damage is done in the network world will have direct effect to the real world, as we saw with the trains in Shinjuku. The Digidestined won't know what's going on until they see a psychopathic monkey start singing in the network world and is broadcasted to everyone's phones, laptop, TVs, because at the end of the day, that's all what Etemon wants. He wants to entertain everyone with his horrible singing. But all that aside, I think there's untapped potential with Etemon, and I would love to see him return in the new 2020 series. So guys, let me know in the comment section down below if you guys want to see Etemon return again. And as always, care for nothing.